This insert is brought to you with the compliments of Radio Cape Pulpit.
As with every week, Denise Padayachee sitting in front of me. We're ready to roll for 2019. She's a lawyer by training and the founder of Wells Training and Mission NPC. Her calling is to help equip and activate an army of forerunners and revivalists who love God deeply. We are focusing on the book of Acts, and it's a practical guide to accessing the miracle power of God. So, Denise, it's a great welcome to you again.
Thank you, Wanda. Thank you for having me.
We've been focusing on quite a few sections of Acts, and we've shared some stuff on love and identity, which was really great. And we spoke about the 3 chairs and becoming the beloved. We've looked at unity in the body, which is something very relevant. And should you want to know more about this, just know that it is available on SoundCloud. So if you go to our Facebook, our website, there we go. If you go to our website, you'll find the SoundCloud, a little cloud there, the orange one. You just click on it and you can go and listen to our inserts on SoundCloud. So today, I'm excited. We are heirs of the kingdom, you say.
That's right.
When we say that we're sons of God, firstly, I would like to know, how do I identify as a woman with that? Just as a side remark. But okay, let's look at heirs of the kingdom. Okay. How are we heirs of the kingdom?
Well, one of the key verses there is Romans 8:16. The Spirit himself bears witness with our spirits that we are children of God. And if children, then heirs of God, and fellow heirs with Christ. And I love that, because that's what God came to do. He created us to be children, not slaves, or not orphans, or not workers, but children for him. And when you see the term sons, it's like the bride of Christ. So men have to be part of the bride of Christ, and we get to be included in that term, sons. Yeah. But sometimes I often use the term sons and daughters because it's inclusive.
Yeah, it makes it easier for people to understand. There's something very crucial that you just mentioned, not as workers.
Yeah.
Isn't that so ironic that we still sometimes believe that we have to work to be part of the kingdom? In other words, that it's still built on works. We know what the word teaches us, but somehow we find ourselves performing and measuring ourselves.
Exactly, which is what we went into a little bit the last time, those 3 chairs, that living from the second chair, which is works, which is not living from a revelation of the Father's love or from the revelation that we are heirs of an amazing kingdom, that everything the Father owns is ours. And so I think that's part of the journey God has us on as a generation, is beginning to open our eyes to the fact that we are children of God, we have full access to the Father, and we have full authority.
And yet we fail to see ourselves like that. Because I look at what you say in the book. You say, when those who lead, whether previously a slave or a prince, think and lead like princes, their nobility, valor, honor, and integrity are the culture they create. Freedom and empowerment will be the fruit. Those are big words.
Yeah.
You need to elaborate on that, because something that really caught my eye was the whole thing of the responsibility that we have.
Huge.
If we're not there, we're going to create a different culture and an ungodly culture, really.
Exactly. At the end of the day, Wanda, I believe that we give what we have. We cannot give what we don't have. So if on the inside we're still in prison, we're still imprisoned in our thinking, we're still in a poverty mentality, we're still in a worker mentality, we're still trying to earn, that's what we lead people into. We don't lead them into the freedom that the Bible presents. And that verse, Proverbs 30, verse 21 to 22, it grabbed my attention a couple of years ago and really helped me grasp what we can bring. So it says, under 3 things the earth quakes, under 4 it cannot bear up. And the first one it mentions is a pauper or slave who becomes a king. And so when a pauper or a slave or somebody who comes into power or kingship externally but not internally leads, then what they create is a culture that's full of oppression, corruption, mismanagement, secrecy, control. And we see that, right? We see that in all spheres of society. But imagine a culture where people are coming into a true revelation internally, not just externally, internally, and then they lead from that place. Like imagine schools run like that, or government run like that, or churches run like that by leaders who are free inside.
Yeah. And important, we talk about freedom and empowerment.
Yeah.
You also mentioned something about South Africa at the moment, and we
Yes.
also do know that we got stuck somewhere. And it's almost like being a prince means that I have to reign over the now of what I have now, and also bear in mind that I have a future.
Yeah.
But somehow we have to honor the past as well. But how
Yes.
do we not get stuck but still honor it?
I think if we have the true understanding of what it's like to be an heir and a prince, or heir and a princess in that sense, then you begin to own the full picture, which
There
is
we
the
go.
father's. And what the elder brother did wrong was he had the full rights, he had the full access, but he stood outside bitter and offended. And he said himself that he was working for a goat. So if we're like that the elder brother, and if we're of that spirit, then our fruit is in keeping with that. But if we change it, and I think South Africa is in a place where we can change it. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's what you become on the road that determines how well you lead in the future.
And a very important thing, we say that we do have the Holy Spirit living in us.
Yes.
Right. So, and yet we find it so difficult to understand that the change is not dependent necessarily on external circumstances.
Yeah.
We look at the life of Moses.
Yes. Yeah, Moses was a great example because he came into freedom. He knew what it's like to lead a free people.
Yeah.
And first he tried to do it his own way. But then when he stepped into God, and God almost brought him to that place of humility and true kingship, I think, then he could lead the nation like a prince.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah.
Understanding your identity and your positioning before God.
So key.
Yes, and you can lead from there.
Yes.
So we need an identity shift. Can we say that we need a culturally identity shift? Do we need a church, a spiritual identity shift? In how many ways can we apply this thought?
I think that we need it on every level. We need it as individuals. We need it as a culture. We need it as a generation. We need it as a nation. And I've been traveling a bit and just seeing the different nations. It's all there. It's all on the cusp of, if true heirs of the kingdom will awaken to their calling, everything can shift. And I think, so that's where we are. But what I see is that there are two important factors that will lead to us coming to that. The first one is recognizing the victorious kingdom we've been born into. And the second one is becoming who we were born to be. So I really believe that power exaggerates what's in our heart. And we have to make sure what's in our heart is worth getting out there. So when the power comes, then if fear's in our heart, or if poverty mentality or victim mentality or greed is in our heart, that's what's going to come out. But when the power comes, the authority, the position, then if love is in our hearts, that's what's going to come out. And I think that's the shift.
When I listen to you now, I'm sure there are more people who can identify with that. Before we move on to becoming who you were born to be, I hear what you say, and I sometimes wonder if we are not so blind of our understanding of who we are.
Yes.
That we find it difficult to say, yes, this needs to change.
So true.
I search my heart, Lord, and these are the things I see. I know I've got a knowledge of it, an insight, and I see it. But now how? Because I want to be an heir of the kingdom. I want to live like a prince. But where do I start with this? How do I get rid of the pain?
I think it is so key, and that's the key word, is pain, is we don't want to address what's wrong. But that's because we don't know what God is really like. I think, I wrote a book before this called Beholding and Becoming. And I think that's almost the precursor to us changing, to us becoming is beholding. When we see that He's a loving Father, when we see He's not going to rebuke us when He sees the stuff inside, or when we understand that He is a Papa, He is Abba, He's Daddy. He's not this lawmaker or just this king on the throne with a scepter that's, if we don't make it in like Esther and we don't find. So I think it's realizing who He really is. And then it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to be us. So I think in some ways we've presented a harsh God. And He is a judge, He is a ruler, but He's also a loving God.
That's beautiful. You also say here, and I want to conclude our session today with that, so the kingdom of God operates inside out.
Yes.
And it's exactly what we touched on now. So change must be internal before external. These will be the transformed ones. What are the changes that I can expect when I say I've searched my heart, I've given it to God, I've let things go, I forgave people who harmed me, who did me ill or bad things against me. If I let go of that, what is the kind of fruit that I can now expect?
You start to act and think like a son or daughter. Your identity is no longer in your position or the things that you have. You become like Gideon, who was hiding in the winepress 1 minute, the next minute going out and winning amazing victories. You have nothing to prove. You come into a rest internally, rest with others, a rest with God. So actually you gain everything, because then from that position of rest, you can reign, which is what God intended from the beginning. Let us create man in our image and let them reign. It was always His intention. And I think when we come to that place of surrendering who we think we are to who we really are, then we come into that.
This is profound, because I think sometimes we're in ministry, and I want to leave this thought with our listeners. Sometimes we're in ministry and we think it's the title that gives us the authority and the mandate, and it's actually a state of being.
It's a state of being.
Of knowing that we are heirs of the kingdom and princes and princesses. Thank you so much for today. It really meant a lot. And if people want to contact you, they can just go to the website.
Yes.
It's wellstraining.co. And that's it.
That's it.
No ZA.
No.
It's just a CO. So it's www.wellstraining.co. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wanda.